I wish good things to you who's watching this. I am Alexey and we're still in round 4 of the 2025 Carcassonne Champions League, and today we have as many as 5 matches, well 5 Carcassonne matches that is. There's also Catan in the evening, but more about later. So a lot of Carcassonne and board games and competitive board gaming to be enjoyed today. In 5 minutes, we are starting with still residues from round 3, as leodavinci of Portugal and VisitorQ of Catalonia still have some unfinished business. They had their match postponed due to last week's weekend being occupied by the Sports Olympiad, so a very good reason to postpone the match. Finally, we're going to see them resolve their differences, and in about 90 minutes after this, Hydrobaby of Taiwan versus Kreukle of Lithuania. This is going to be a Group A match where the Lithuanian will be trying to get their first win against the group leader to preserve the chances for qualifying to the playoffs. Now, let's go back to this, focus on the Group E match between Leo and Visitor. So I've got a bit of a more updated picture of the group, kindly provided to me by the group's leader MTU, who's currently on 3 wins in 3 matches. Then Leo is, well, not in second place, but they could be in second place after winning this match. If they are to win, they're going to have 2 victories and 1 loss, and this will put them, well, definitely a better tiebreaker than VisitorQ, because this would imply them winning and VisitorQ losing. Now, if VisitorQ wins this one, then he actually has a shot even at the first place in the group, because later MTU is playing against leodavinci in round 4 today at 16:30 UTC, and let's assume that Leo wins, then MTU's tiebreaker is going to get worse, and VisitorQ could actually tie for first technically. So this would mean that if VisitorQ wins 2-0, then his stats are going to be like this. So 3 matches won and 6 games won. And for MTU, assuming that he loses 2-0, which of course is not a very likely outcome given that he's the highest rated player in the group, but still we've seen worse upsets in recent history of the championship, just last week, just a couple of days ago. So then he would also be with the same tiebreaker. So a lot of unclarity in this group. MTU probably very close to guaranteeing himself a qualification spot. All he would need to do is not to lose his 2 next matches too badly. But these 3 guys are really fighting it out for the top 2 spots. Now, Kissimo of Hungary must be watching on this match with excitement. In his interest would probably be a victory of VisitorQ, and then later a victory of MTU, which would put Kissimo in 3rd place and leodavinci in 4th. I need to remind you that it is only the top 3 players in each group who qualify for the playoffs. Of course, after that, there will still be a round to go. And so far, technically, I mean, everybody in the group has a chances to qualify, even Pyro of Japan, who was considered by rating at least a group favorite, but as a series of upsets, they're now finding themselves in last place. But with 2 wins and a good tiebreaker, and maybe if these both guys lose, for example, like if VisitorQ loses the upcoming match and then leodavinci maybe loses against MTU, something like this. So low chances for the Japanese player, but still non-zero. So this is the tournament situation. We're going to revisit this after the match. The match itself is starting in around a minute. leodavinci, that's Rui Costa of Portugal, has a rating of over 600. They recently delivered a solid performance of a top 8 finish in the Sports Olympiads, defeating one of the highest rated players in the world at the moment, Nalaheim, in a best of 3 series that's put them into the top 8. So they seem to be currently in very good shape. VisitorQ at the moment is rated not far away from them. Of course, a very experienced player, has played for the Catalan team many times at the World Team Carcassonne Online Championships and continental events. So I would predict that Leo, due to him being in good shape, would be the slight favorite, maybe like 55, maybe 60%, but truly anything can happen between these two. And the match should be starting now, so let's just update the page and see if the game has been created. And yes, it has. 1 minute ago it started, already a couple of moves made, both sides with already 4 points due to these two completed cities. Visitor with the red meeples, Leo with the yellow meeples, and a decent tile to prolong. Oh, I was thinking to prolong his city here, but instead he's starting a new one. So his plan is to build this city with city caps and try to gain quick 8 points. And this city he wants to cover up with Doritos first and maybe have this sort of big lip-shaped pattern. And that way he can have himself a good use for any possible city tile to come. Hi Andres, hi Wild Maze. Oh, okay, I actually, that's interesting. So this is the round 4 match and the other one is the round 3. Anyway, it doesn't matter too much. I typically get a lot of these meta stuff wrong, like tournament situation, which match it is, which day it is, which tournament it is, because I just care so much more about what's happening on the board. But I do appreciate the correction. Hi MTU. Hi Sergey, sound should have been fixed right now. Do let me know if this is the case or not. I must have touched my mic a little bit too much in overexcitement. So what are we seeing here? Yellow with a slight advantage. The city of yellow on the right will not be gaining 8 points because it was invaded, but yellow has to be super happy due to this 7-point monastery. So definitely a good position for Leo here. Now probably deciding whether it's worth saving this square, to which the answer is no, given the fact that his city at the bottom was already first broken and then invaded. He's probably thinking between two moves. One is just going over here and equalizing red city, which is the low variance move, which I prefer. It takes away a couple of productive tiles from red, such as the 2 extenders and some good splitter caps. Another move is just going over here, potentially starting a new city and simply taking care of the square. But given the fact that there's still 8 curves remaining in the deck, there is really no rush going over here. If your opponent takes a crossroads and separates the roads, it's really not such a big problem because this road is not long enough for it to be worth it. So Leo does in fact invade the city at the top, and now he gets a curve. And actually, so he does complete the connection, but I don't think there was any rush with this. As Leo, I would have probably taken a loop road first and only then did what he did. Also, I have qualms about this farmer. Even though it's a 6 point and it can develop later, yellow is in a position where he actually might need meeples, because first of all, he has a lot of meeple pairs tied up in mini battles. Look at this, 4 pairs of meeples are contesting each other, and now as a result, of course, he is in a bit of a meeple trouble. And this monastery spot, as nice as it is a bit suboptimal because of this square. The square is a bit vulnerable, and Visitor immediately blocks it. So I wonder if, as Leo, it was just better to not rush things, maybe just meeple this monastery instead, and not even meeple the farmer in the first place, and then complete this monastery with a different one. Yeah, so the thing is, like, remember how often I talk on this channel about completing a monastery with another monastery and how productive that is, but it's really only is productive because it scores you a lot of points. And typically the most lucrative pattern of completing a monastery with another monastery is creating a shape like this with a monastery in the center, and then you get the new monastery tile over here for 6 points, something like this. So completing a new monastery for 4, that also kind of works, but then if there's already a points on the board which scores the same and it's also safer and also provides some tempo moves such as this 4-point road, this seems to have been more preferable for me. Leo's thinking about this one, which really surprises me. There's really only one move available. You're getting blocked. Well, why not prevent yourself from getting blocked? And I think I know why. You see, Visitor here is trying to invade the shared city at the bottom, and the Portuguese expert may be apprehensive about the prospect of the city being completed. So I wonder if he simply chooses to go over here and block the square himself. In my view, that would be a bit of an overreaction because this city is quite unlikely to be completed. It has a bunch of sensitive squares, and if push comes to shove, Leo can always re-invade. So I really like preserving the chances of getting himself a meeple back, and which is exactly what he does. Visitor completes the invasion. Leo now with a cow tile. He could either go here and just block the square for prophylaxis, because you never know what's going to happen to this city. Or you might just go over here at the top and ignore the square at your peril, but then try to develop a bit of a winning mini battle at the top. Still, this 6-point farmer is a problem in yellow's position that will need to be resolved soon enough. So yellow plays conservatively, which I like. It's a juicy tile, but it's certainly nice to take care of this square, because then this means that you can work towards the completion of your monastery without any qualms. A curvy tile for Leo, a bunch of moves available. He can either just go over here, build up his monastery, or he can go over here at the bottom, pre-building a 4-point road which goes through his monastery square. And given the fact that he only has one meeple in hand, he really needs to explore those point scoring setups as an option. A third move is just going over here at the top and trying to play against this monastery. This is a move which I'm not a huge fan of. Well, I mean, it's kind of understandable. So, you see what this move does. It develops the monastery, yes, but it does so in a slightly vulnerable way. For example, Visitor, even though I love Visitor's move here, so he's trying to now eat up this city piece. He's crawling and crawling and crawling like a giant snake. Like some anaconda trying to eat up those guys over here. In the meantime, some quick points are being scored. The Monastery of Red is being obstructed. A city is being indirectly added to Yellow's field, so Yellow could get something like a monastery tile or a city splitter even. A horizontal splitter go over here and do stuff like this. So good position for Yellow now, really, really good. Yeah, but going back to this move, so like most players would have probably preferred something like this with a curve pointing up, but with this farmer over here, Yellow can't really afford stuff like this anymore because he wants to develop his farmer. He does not want it to be stuck at 6 points, and so he's choosing a move which gives him more green squares. So because of this hasty farmer placement, he's now forced to settle for positional concessions in his other features, like in his monastery, just not to hurt his own meeple too much. Leo, with one of the 3 daggers, oh no, that's not Leo, that's Visitor. With one of the 3 daggers that fit into this square, of course, he just chooses to discard it. He will not be helping Yellow's monastery. Yellow with a monastery tile, now a great, great move. Well, it's a great tile. About the great move, I'm not sure. It is not necessarily that he's going to find it, because I think many players would just be tempted to go over here and add the monastery point, which I believe would be a bit misguided, simply because there's this better option available. Yeah, it fully blocks Red's monastery, it expands his field to 9 points and then some. Now a curve is available for Leo, a variety of options, could go here, here, pre-build the road. Probably the one which I prefer most is going over here. and setting up one of the many, many straight lines, 7 to be exact. If he had 2 meeples in hand, he might even choose to meeple this curve. But in these situations, the potential road points are not really going to give him a greater win percentage, if you ask me. So just leaving this empty seems to be the way to go. Also, you really, like when you have an advantage like this, you really don't want to be staying without meeples for any length of time, because if your opponent has 1 meeple and you have 0, they have suddenly have more comeback routes than they otherwise would have, because they can just set up scoring opportunities on the board without necessarily risking their own meeples. Visitor now playing magnificently. Look at this. Eating up all those points. Now this ruin's worth 20 points or something, and there's really not much that Leo can do. Now Leo still is in great position even after Visitor drew the second of the 3 dagger that fits into this square, and he's now trying to block a little bit, so he's still finding productive moves. I wonder if Visitor should start covering up this ruin or not. It depends on the score difference a lot. So Visitor really is not in a great position, because this 6-point monastery is losing to this 9-point farmer. This city is still, I guess, compensating for the scoreboard difference. But then Leo also has this monastery, so Leo is a bit ahead. So maybe from Visitor's perspective, you actually want to keep this city open. You want to entice yellow into attacking this city, and then you block yellow and then you win the game. So this could be a potential comeback. Not necessarily looking for the objectively best moves, but looking for moves which trying to induce a mistake. So with this score, Leo should basically never attack this city, because he can easily win just by scoring some normal points. He still has a chance to recover his monastery meeple. He can develop his field on the left, and Visitor just can't do nothing about it. But as soon as you attack the city, you open that possibility of getting blocked, which drastically decreases your win percentage. Visitor scores some points. It is his second quick point move in the entire game, with 40 tiles played. Leo now with a fantastic tile of himself. He can just keep building. Yeah, so this is why this invasion earlier was so profitable. He can now maybe do something like this and now start obstructing this square. They're actually, oh wait, that would be perfect, because there are no big tiles remaining at all. So you can go here, block the square completely. There's nothing that fits here, and that he can still get a Dorito to take advantage of this tile and score a couple of points. So what can Visitor do? Well, not that, my friend. It is a really weak move. If you are in the position that Visitor is right now, you need to be a bit more desperate. This move scores 1 point. It is not enough. You gotta either start a new city, scoring potentially 4 points in 2 moves, or you gotta just drop that city cap and gamble. So it seems that the Catalan player is not necessarily adjusting his strategy to this score. Hi, Nepamai. Wait. Oh yeah, there we go. Maybe like this. Anyway, oh, Leo with a fantastic tile. Gets himself a road monastery. Visitor develops a city, which makes a lot of sense. And now it's a very, very interesting choice for Leo. So the move which scores most immediately is just going over here, getting both sides a meeple back, and expanding his field by a lot, turning a 9-point field into a 12-point field. But the question is, do you even need to do that? Because as soon as you open up a bigger field, then suddenly your opponent can attack that field. And maybe they can even attack that with 2 meeples. And maybe they can overrun this field in the future. So probably as Leo, I like keeping things small here. And maybe just going over here, getting myself 1 point. And still having 1 dagger tile that can give me a meeple back. Oh yeah, here is even better, scoring 2 points. Yeah, notice, so he chooses to score 2 instead of scoring 3. Simply for the sake of not opening up the field. That's actually very instructive. Because you don't want to score as much as possible in a game of Carcassonne. You just want to win. Which means scoring more than your opponent in the long run. So even though this Madasha move was 1 extra point, it's just opened the game too much to some unpleasant possibilities. Visitor is now starting a new city, and now we can see the full consequences of this unambitious move over here. So with this city cap, he would have already finished himself a city. And now it seems that he doesn't get a city cap of his own. So probably what we're going to see is maybe some sort of block from Leo. I guess it doesn't yet quite fully work, but Leo can probably just score a little bit. Yeah, and look at this. Visitor gets himself a tile with which we would have scored more. So he has already lost many, many points with this city cap. Of course, he cannot use his meeples to score. Instead, he just uses the tile to get both parties a meeple back. This definitely favors red, because there's not a lot that yellow can do with these meeples. Okay, Visitor does get a city cap, so this move ends up costing him only 4 points. So this mistake earlier on. Not ideal, but not fatal just yet. And this game is actually fairly close. Okay, let me think about this. So 7-point monastery, those two cancel each other out. 9-point field. 1-point city, 21-point city, so 26. This city is 7, so 16 versus 26, 10 points. Huh. So Leo is ahead 3 points only. And just in case, he's now setting up an attacking opportunity against the city. It's not a particularly threatening opportunity because it is only a 50-50 opportunity. Visitor decides to not even bother with that. He simply starts a new field of his own. This is one way to come back into this game. If he's just lucky enough to draw some good city caps. Or even if he doesn't even have to be that lucky. Okay, let me just try and pull the game back up for you. Of course, Leo cleans off one of those city caps. So the idea is this. Imagine if, like, yellow scores this one, and we score this one as red. If we do get a good tile, but we don't. Then what we can do, we can just claim these 9 points for ourselves. We both take a 4-point city, so it cancels each other out. And it puts us at +6 for the price of a meeple. And there are actually not many places on the board where you can score 6 points with a meeple. So I presume that this is the plan of a Catalan player. There's just one missing element. He needs to draw the city cap over here ASAP. Leo is scoring quick points. The wrong type of city cap for Visitor, but he decides to cover up his city, and Leo with another scoring tile can take out the city cap over here. And with that, victory will be difficult for the Catalan player unless we can have one more pair of city caps at the top to score 7 points. 23 points on the scoreboard for Leo. Visitor tries desperately to develop his field as he should. Should have counted maybe a little bit more. Whether it's worth meepling that city cap, it does seem to be the case because there are multiple city caps available. So red really resents the idea of Leo being able to clean off another city cap in his field. Leo tries to block, takes the road, Visitor gets himself a meeple back and 4 points, but this creates an invasion spot against this farm, which surely is going to be used by Leo. So let's say if Leo goes over here, now the best hope of Visitor is simply hoping to either draw both invasion tiles in both directions, or maybe take 4 points and then reinvade this field later. Also an interesting 3-point meeple over here from yellow. Is there really a large enough number of road ends to justify it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's still 2 crossroads and a road monastery. So plenty of chances to get this meeple back. So that's why I presume Leo is likely to go over here and go for a field invasion. What he's trying to calculate whether he needs to do that in order to win. And after the city cap, I seem to think that it is the case. Well, actually, the score should be exactly equal if I counted correctly, of which there's no guarantee. Oh, interesting. Yeah, he simply chooses to take 1 point. And so he really wants to outrun his opponent. So he should be +1 at the moment. Note that no daggers fit here anymore. Visitor drew all of them. And now Leo, with a curve and a difficult choice. So we know that he would have successfully invaded the field had he only tried. If he's going the outrunning route, I guess a possible move is going over here and trying to obstruct that city cap, taking away options from his opponent. So I see that there's at the very least 1 vanilla tile remaining, and this would take this option away from red. The issue with that move is that if red were to draw the last umbrella tile, then red not only would finish his city and get a meeple back, but this city would be part of the big field, so red would even score a field. But then also you have to ask yourself, do these 3 extra points really matter? Or is it important to try and delay your opponent's city completion at all cost? Because later on, if you go here, you can kind of still try and block this meeple completely, in which case yellow would win with his meeple advantage. Really not an obvious decision here. So what I would be trying to do, I would be trying to make sure that I know all the 7 unseen tiles available to me and the exact point count. But is it the case? And of course, Leo can also try another invasion. No, he pre-builds a road for himself, so he allows Visitor to complete the city. Oh, this road could backfire. Or no, it doesn't. He gets himself the 5 points. So this idea was simply try and get some counterplay. But then we know that had Leo gone here, Visitor would not have completed his city that easily. Well, he would have completed it on his next move anyway. So a dagger for Visitor. I wonder if he's going to just go over here and drop a second farmer. Can he afford to do that? I have a feeling that he can. If I counted correctly, of which there is no guarantee, Visitor should be like 1 point ahead at the moment, overall. Of course, huge scoreboard advantage for Leo, but Visitor now has the greater of the 2 farms for 3 points and a ginormous city. So if we go over here, we go up 7 points, then we still have an umbrella tile available to us to make it 9. But then I wonder, can our opponent hurt us? I don't think so. So there's nothing that fits into this square. Wait, there's the road monastery. There is the road monastery. Yeah. And it seems to me that no matter what you do, no matter how hard you try, this game is probably going to come down to the road monastery tile. Because it scores so much for either side. Well, first of all, a road monastery doesn't have to be used as a monastery. It's in the name. It's a road monastery. It can be used for a road. So these 4 points are up for grabs. But if it's drawn on the last tile, Visitor can go over here for 6 monastery points, plus adding an extra point to his farm. It is also possible that Leo might use the road monastery for the invasion of this farm through any of the possible routes. You could drop a farmer like this, you could drop a farmer like this, just so many options. Visitor decides to cover up a little bit. He still had 1 point. Now I start wondering if Leo can just win this game. Well, I mean, he can just go over here, of course, and hope for the road monastery, in which case he would be having himself a 33% winning chance. Also, what are the remaining tiles? So the road monastery, of course. The umbrella tile, of course. And there's also something not that significant. I believe it should be a cross. No. No crossroads. Because I already counted the umbrella tile as a crossroads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. No curves anymore. No Doritos of any kind. No extenders. No splitters. A starting tile? No starting tiles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No daggers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Straight line? No? Well, Visitor does get himself the road monastery, which should win him the game. There's a lovely 9-point move over here waiting to happen. And I didn't quite figure out what that last tile was. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Wait. Yeah, the players are so much faster than me. But this also, yeah, they're 8 straight lines. Okay, so this is the crossroads, which will score Leo a little bit, but not too much. And by that, I mean exactly 1 point. Oh, the last tile is a straight line, yeah. It's just like some of these starting tiles look like straight lines. So that it does appear that the winning chances of Leo were, in fact, 1 in 3. He just had to use that road monastery. He had to get it from the tile stack. Visitor gets himself an extra point and should be winning this game by how much? 9, 5. Around 4, I guess? Around 4, around 5, something like this. Really didn't expect that comeback here. Because Leo was up over 20 on the scoreboard. Both sides had very few meeples. But then that big field at the top, 6 points is the difference. 6 points is the difference. Well, that's a fun start. So we congratulate Mr. Visitor here. The second game has already started. Players do not want a break. Now, at least Leo has the starting player advantage, so he will be looking to capitalize on that, get himself some better winning odds in the final endgame, but 4 points are first scored by the Catalan player. A rodent for Leo secures the roads, uses it in a different way than I would. Kind of the downside of this move that I don't like, it gives back a loop potentially, and in the opening you really want to play a little bit tighter. There are also some, by the way, like if you turn the road the other way, then there are also some sequences possible. Oh, for example, imagine this. Yeah, so we see that yellow started a new city here. If the city tile, if this road tile were turned the other way, first of all, Visitor would not have this move available to him, which starts a 4-point loop whilst also harassing this yellow city. And second, there will be some interesting scenarios how by hiding both of these rodents, if your opponent draws a rodent tile, like a quadruple road tile, or maybe a horse, then they can't score easy 2 points, and they are forced to either continue your road, which they won't do, or just go somewhere at the top. So an opening in precision from Leo ends up them not costing them much, as they get themselves a crossroad tile to bail out and disrupt the loop of Visitor, but some consequences they will have to face as the Catalan player blocks his neighbor quite severely. There are, of course, still 3 tiles that left to fit into that square, but the main issue here for yellow is the fact that Visitor can so easily create a platform for full block. All he needs to do is complete his city, which he's going to do anyway. And then I guess we're going to have some chances of defending. But we're losing this meeple here pretty often, like upwards of 40% of the time or something. So Visitor gets himself a city meeple back, but exposes the least threatening of the 3 potential blocking platforms. Surely now Leo with a very easy defense. A huge sigh of relief for all of our Portuguese fans. Also drops a farmer to make sure that the field invasion is complete once this city is also completed. So a decent position here for Leo. Finishes a loop, starts a new city. Very open position, very volatile position. Multiple monastery spots. High scoring and marginal available here. And Leo with the first monastery spot, thinking whether to go the stacking approach or to take the full 7 points. It's not an obvious choice, but I definitely prefer the full 7 points here. Even though it looks like a little bit dangerous, maybe your opponents could hurt you with a cow. Actually, they could really hurt you with a cow. They could maybe finish their city, attack you over here. But the reason why I really want to go over here is defensive. I want to take out that scoring option from my opponent. And also it scores 2 more immediate points than this other option over here. Still, no shame in stacking. I guess he could even also go over here, support his city, control Red's road. He goes for the 7-pointer, which is the best move if you ask me. Visitor, I'm gonna say kind of wastes a tile. I mean, it's not a waste. It's not a bad move necessarily. So it obstructs this monastery significantly because it is a Sophie's Choice block. Now Leo needs the same tile here and here. There's a 50% chance that he'll be able to draw both. But then you gotta ask yourself, is spending a shielded tile on a 50-50 block, even if it's a complete block, is it like really worth doing? As Visitor, I probably would have preferred going over here, exposing another platform, and then using a less powerful tile for blocking. Leo now gets himself a meeple back, although it's actually super tempting to go here. I think it is the correct choice. Because if you don't liberate your meeple here, you could lose 2 meeples with a 25% chance. And his position is really not that bad. It's a good position to be in if you're yellow. Like this one blocked meeple, even if it gets blocked, it's not a big deal at all. Because we have some construction projects. He's now going to go over here, finish a city. I know that some players might be tempted to invade over here, but you never do that. That would be quite a big mistake. At Rui's level, he already knows that for sure. Hi, Daniel. Wait, and I even did not update the score. So this is how exciting that second game is. Visitor with the lead and the match points potentially. Which would also, by the way, guarantee him, or all but guarantee, a qualification spot for the playoffs. Leo's really thinking about this one. I wonder why exactly, because there is... Oh, I see why. Well, there are two moves that stand out to me. Swan is sort of like this normal-looking equity move, but there's one which I start liking even more, and this is going over here. So you meeple the city cap like this. You indirectly continue your city, maybe hoping for a bit of a larger pattern. You cover it up from invasions and blocks, and you also obstruct your opponent's road. Given the fact that there's so many road ends available still, taking out a lot of these road ends seems to be pretty useful. The downside of all of these moves is that they create bigger and bigger fields, and this is not something that yellow benefits from as the side with the long-term meeple minority due to these construction projects which need to be completing. And sadly, yellow chooses a move which is really good for content, but is extremely, extremely misguided and is quite likely to result in a loss of a game. So it's kind of breaking one of the cardinal rules. He's trying to go for both the monasteries and the fields, and if you're going to play an imbalance, then you have to realize what your strengths are, which is just scoring, just normal scoring moves. He drops a farmer, of course. Yeah, that sort of kind of makes sense. But then he needs to realize that his opponent has more meeples, and the bigger the fields are, the more points yellow is going to lose in the long run. But then there are also some tactical issues with this move. For example, this square over here is super vulnerable, given the fact that there are no starting tiles remaining. So now yellow can't even afford to go here properly without endangering his own road. The city also needs to be built up. I guess the one saving grace is this square, which has been protected, so Leo could at some point go over here and get his monastery meeple back. But look at this, because he dropped a farmer without having consolidated first, he decided that he can't meeple this road, which he, by the way, should have done anyway. And then this leaves a 5-point road back to his opponent. So we can already see the negative consequences from this farmer early enough. Now, it is entirely possible that he's going to bail out of this. It's not a lost position or anything, but yellow no longer has an advantage as big as they used to. They do, of course, draw a fantastic tile for 4 extra points and a meeple back from the road. They are now trying to build up their city on the left. It's actually not easy to access that city, so I can foresee certainly a rhombus pattern with 5 Doritos still remaining, and then maybe dropping a farmer here, and Visitor just goes the full hog. I have no doubt he plans to drop a farmer here, waiting for an evil hamster, which would also give him a field majority. So we're having ourselves an exciting position. Leo with still plenty of chances. A lot in this game is going to depend on who draws these here monasteries. Leo is probably going to take out this empty city cap, which is at least what he should do. Is he really thinking about farming? Please don't. Well, if he thought about it, he thought better of it. Visitor with a great move. It's a counterintuitive. But he's now trying to break Leo's city, and it's not easy to defend. The best that Leo can do is going over here, leaving still 2 tiles that fit into this square, but it's only 2 tiles, and even if he gets his meeple back, he now needs city caps in all those places, as opposed to Doritos. And even if he saves this square, red could go over here and later obstruct this square, so that's a very nice find. At first, I didn't really think much of those city blocking moves because I generally don't like blocking moves as they add variance. And speaking of adding variance, VisitorQ takes advantage of it by drawing an Evil Hamster Monastery right from the deck. Still, plenty of options for Leo, who's now going to get his meeple back. He's thinking whether to drop a farmer, and I would delay that a little bit. There will be plenty of other farming opportunities. But back to these blocks, I was like kind of skeptical of them at first because I really don't like high variance moves because they eventually lead to losses if your opponent gets all of these good city cap tiles and then all you've done is added them a couple of points. But then, first of all, there's the delay factor, which is significant. And then there's the factor of simply denying your opponent the productive use of good tiles. As in this case, Doritos, for example, cannot be used by Leo easily. Well, he can go over here, of course, try to block Visitor a little bit. Maybe even with a farmer, that's not the worst idea, perhaps. Trying to connect to the field through the city. He can't defend his city that yet. But yeah, anyway, so I've started treating those blocks more seriously after playing a few practice games with the 2023 My Sports Grand Prix winner, Jorge Meya, who's really into that kind of blocking pattern and has applied it to great effect. Hi, Nicholas. So Leo just goes for the blocking move without necessarily dropping a farmer, and it works at least in the short term. In fact, there's only one city cap that fits into this square. So probably as Leo, we don't even try and complete it at all. Visitor greedy scores 4 points. I'm a bit surprised about this. I would assume that they would want to go over here and make a Sophie's Choice block. You see, so this is the penultimate dagger, and Leo already needs the dagger over here. So if Visitor had gone over here for just 2 fewer points, he would have made sure that now Yellow needs a dagger in 2 places. And he cannot get 2 meeples back. So now what Leo can do, actually, he can just go over here and defend. But given the fact that he's down on the scoreboard, I probably wouldn't even do that. What I really like in this position is just scoring 2 points over here, setting up a more potent monastery spot, which will bring me back into this game. For example, you go over here, you score 2, you go over here, you score 3, you go over here, you score 9 and 9. And then suddenly Yellow's ahead on the scoreboard. Visitor with a shielded tile and not many productive uses for it. I wonder if he should start thinking about board shaping with it. Instead, he just discarded. I really don't like it. As Visitor, he might have considered going over here, simply building his city with still a sizable number of city cap tiles and Dorito tiles left in the deck. He could actually build up and take advantage of that shielded tile. But if you're gonna discard it, then maybe over here was a little bit better, just denying some desperate farming options for your opponent. Because I wonder if Leo might go over here at some point and drop a farmer, try to connect through the last remaining dagger if he so needs. But a great tile for the Portuguese player. It's not quite the dagger that you want to have over here, which I'm sure he's going to try and draw eventually. But if he just goes over here and covers up his city, suddenly there are plenty of options to complete it. They're either the 2 Dorito road tiles, one of which is drawn by Visitor, but there's still another one left. Or there are still triple city tiles available, which, by the way, can even come with a farmer. Yeah, there are plenty of farming opportunities. So one which I would really like is with the starting tile, but the starting tile no longer exists. Okay, so there's one which I really like horse tile goes here, farmer goes here, 50-50 shot to get the dagger, and get the farmer in, and get the monastery meeple out, and also score 8 points for a road with 1 click of a mouse and no investment of a meeple. But so far, this is just daydreaming. it does appear to be too early to go for a committal play like this with this tile. So Leo will need to find another productive use for it, and the move that he will end up making, as unpleasant as it seems, is probably just going over here, trying to permanently block Visitor's City, although there are some ways how it could backfire. But then it also creates a lot of volatility on the board. For example, it creates a field attacking opportunity here. It also pre-builds a 10-point city over here, which you are a bit more likely to benefit than your opponent in case you draw the last remaining vanilla tile. Then you get to go over here, score 10 points like this. So it is a bit of a scary option to make, but I truly don't see anything better. Oh, thank you, Napamai, for telling me that all the starting tiles and butterfly tiles are out. Yeah, so you see, like when you get a tile like this, the instinctive move is to go over here and defend, because normally there are 6 tiles that fit into this square. It's just in this instance all 6 of them are out. Well, Leo can now successfully block this meeple, which I'm pretty sure is going to happen. He's thinking whether it is worth to drop a farmer, and the answer is actually a clear yes. If you just count the unseen tiles and see how many row tiles there are, then you actually might reconsider, because there are no straight lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are still 3 curves though. Yeah, it's very interesting. So the move is undoubtedly here. But then if you get a farmer, your opponent has a few blocking tiles available to them, such as the horse. So they get to go over here. And then this would mean that you would need this tile in several places. And so he decides to not go for the invasion. Although I really did like the invasion there. I think it was worth taking the risk. But he figures that there will be another invasion opportunity over here a little bit later. And he really wants to have those meeples for later. He now chooses to try and break Visitor's City, also setting up platforms for a potential connection to the city. Also, it needs to be pointed out that it is not entirely unrealistic for yellow to win without any fields whatsoever. Like, bam, monastery, then maybe a simply scoring move over here if we get the dagger. We don't actually have to use this platform for a field invasion. We could just get ourselves an 8-point road and a meeple back. And then maybe in that case we can actually survive the 15-point field over here. Leo, with a cow tile, deciding whether it is worth to invade the city on the left or simply block it further. Given the number of big tiles remaining, I probably like the invasion a little bit better. There are still ways for Leo to get some meeples back. There's still the threat of getting the Dorito tile with an extra farmer. 3 monastery tiles available for this square. Some really potent moves in the cards. Note that there are no splitters available, so the idea of separating the red meeple from the yellow will not work. The fate of these 2 mercenaries is tied. And now, what an interesting move here. So Visitor develops his field and now creates a chance to fully block this here square. And as Leo, you really don't have a lot of good options. So I guess you want to go over here, theoretically, to unify the fields. But then your opponent is threatening to block your city. So do you just go over here and tie the 2 cities together, share the points, but make sure that your opponent does not block? But he decides not to do that, and I agree. And the reason is he's counting tiles and he recognizes that there are extremely, extremely few blocking tiles available for this guy. In fact, so there are no vanillas, there are no splitters of any kind, there are no extenders, there are no Doritos. So the only blocking tile, true blocking tile, is the last remaining cow. There is also another opportunity for Reds to block. That would be to get the last Dorito tile himself. Now, Visitor, of course, completes the connection. He will be able to go over here, but at the very least, he's forced to spend the tile on it himself. In the meantime, Visitor blocks or restricts the monastery spot of Leo, and now Leo is not able to go over here, so hugely important block over here, gaining Visitor 8 points, or at the very least saving him 8 points. Note that this move is a treacherous one, as it is not with the sole intention of invading over here. There is a back-to-back sequence of cow plus horse that allows this meeple to invade this city instead, leaving the rightmost guy stranded for 5 points and having 14 points for yellow himself, for red himself rather. So Leo could prevent this by going over here. This would also set up some interesting field connection opportunities. It's probably the move. But I wonder if the Portuguese player even sees that idea. Leo, with the monastery tile, still thinking where to use it, and he does find his idea. So that's why Visitor chooses to unify the cities here while he can. And now, not a great situation for Leo. Probably, is it time to just go over here and invade the farm? The farm is 15 points. And then I guess he can hope for the last dagger still. And then after that, he can get himself some scoring tiles, such as an 8-point road over here, or a 9-point monastery over here. So this could be a potential plan. He can also go here and try for this invasion, and then later on just get a monastery tile for 0 points, simply for the purpose of getting himself a meeple back, and then maybe invading through here. But as I'm thinking about all of these, we're running out really short on road tiles. No. Oh, there was a vanilla tile remaining. I kind of forgot about that. Visitor, I think, playing with fire here, dropping a farmer where he really doesn't have to. But it could end up working out. The reason why I hate this farmer so much is because in order to invade, you need the same tiles that yellow needs. And if yellow draws the invasion tiles, then you're less likely to draw the invasion tiles. In fact, let me check. Are there even invasion tiles left? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There is only one sole curve that fits into the square. Okay, there's also the road monastery, of course. But by going over here, maybe with the city side to the left, this is what Leo is now trying to calculate. He can actually attempt to fully block this square. For example, with a tile like this. Or like this. Leo has a full block available to him. Or pick your orientation, either by going over here and committing this towards a city tile, which is no longer existent, or by going over here and doing the same. He decided to do the latter. Not that it makes any substantial difference. Yeah, and so Visitor with a 0-point farmer here. And Leo, I think, with some chances to win the game. I mean, he's still a little bit behind on pure points, right? Because these monasteries are scoring 16. And 16 is the scoreboard difference. But Visitor has this 2-point city blocked. And it looks like this is what's going to make all the difference. In order to win, Leo had to draw either the dagger or the monastery, like right there, right now. so that he could use his last meeple for scoring. It just so happened that the Portuguese player drew the 1 out of 3 remaining tiles that does nothing for him. The Road Monastery belongs to Visitor, and the dagger does belong to Leo, and he gets the dagger eventually, and he gets himself the 1 monastery point and a meeple bag, but sadly, he can no longer use this meeple, and he will be losing this game with a painful and devastating 1 point difference. Well, if it's any consolation for our Portuguese fans, if the game were tied, this also would not have been enough, given that Rui was the starting player. So, ouchie, ouchie indeed. The Catalan player with a swindle here. Well, definitely with a swindle in the first game. The second game was clearly where Red had a lot of advantage, but then Red, with this rather dubious farmer, really risked the entire game. But playing with fire did not burn him, just hanging out there by 1 point. So, VisitorQ 2, leodavinci 1. And with that, the chances of the Portuguese player qualifying for the playoffs of another major international tournament is something that is less likely to happen. So let's look at the tournament table. Also, by the way, one of the reasons I was really rooting for Leo in this game, so that we could have ourselves a decider. Now we can't. And now they're like half an hour to fill before the next match. But I'm not planning to stop the stream. I'm probably going to talk about the tournament situation a little bit and maybe like then analyze some game or something. And then we can take a break. Anyway, so here's the tournament situation, right? So Visitor actually now really contesting MTU for the top spot in the group. Leo, 1 win in 3 matches and a negative tiebreaker. So what would need to happen for them to qualify? Well, Leo would basically need to win his last round against Kisemo. I believe that this is a player who he has not played. And then he would have a positive tiebreaker, and then... Yeah, actually, I think if he wins against Kisemo, then he wins no matter what. But before that, he would also need to win against MTU, which is no easy feat, as MTU, along with Pyro, are considered grouped favorites. So, VisitorQ has all but guaranteed themselves a qualification spot. They have a solid positive tiebreaker of +3 games. So it looks like we will be seeing them in the playoffs. Kisemo must have enjoyed seeing this game as well. And we will find out later today if Leo can win against MTU and preserve their chances. As for these two guys, the situation looks pretty grim. Now that they're 2 players on 3 wins, I guess Pyro's best shot is to win his last 2 games in the group and then hope that Kisemo loses, something like this. And same goes for the Spaniard. Alright, I see that's MTU already with the trash talk on the chat. Already 4 hours premature. Yeah, anyway, that's kind of going to be it. You know what? I don't really think that there is much left to talk about it. And because there's just so much board gaming content coming up today. So there's, of course, the match at 12:30 UTC, which we're going to watch between Kreukle and hydrobaby. Then after that, let's actually just have a look through this. There is going to be both MTU and leodavinci with a special guest, by the way, for this one, and Portugal versus Warta in the same stream. Then there's also Game Over versus Isluan, which are also showing, and immediately after that, the finals of Mindsports Olympiad Catan tournament for the first time ever on this channel. And because of such an abundance of content today, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to stop the stream because I've already scheduled both of these two matches in one stream, mistakenly thinking that the first match would last a little bit longer. So instead, I'm just going to announce a 25-minute break and just keep the stream running live. And let me just put that on the screen, I guess. And then we can reconvene at 12:25 UTC for some pre-match banter. That would be the plan. Not 23. 12, 25. Let me actually put that over here so that it doesn't cover up our matches. Alrighty, so then I'm see y'all in around 23 minutes. knew there was something wrong. Okay, so there was no sound, but the good thing is that over the last couple of minutes, I wasn't really saying anything about interesting. I was just looking at the tournament situation and drawing something on the screen, so I'm pretty sure that you must have seen that you must have seen the options. I was discussing the very limited but still non-zero chances of kreukle to qualify for the playoffs, and at least they need to start doing so by winning today. If they do lose today, then their playoff chances are over. But even if not to qualify for the playoffs, their aim of winning today would be at the very least to secure 1 tournament point, maybe getting a better overall tournament standing, and still preserve the mathematical chance of qualification next week. As for hydrobaby, the group leader, they surely will want to stay on that perfect streak. They even managed to win a match against the reigning champion and the group favorite Vladimir Kovalev with the screen name someone you know, so I'm pretty sure they must be in a good mood. So this is everything that I was saying pretty much. Yeah, I should read the chat a little bit more proactively. Anyway, the match has started in 2 minutes, and there's really not so much left to talk about. Well, maybe the chances for the match. So I want to just look at the profiles of these players a little bit. So hydrobaby is currently rated 642, which is a really strong expert range. They have been a long-term member of the Taiwan team, participated in the World Team Carcassonne Online Championship several times, sometimes to the detriment of my own team. Surely we remember the painful loss in the first round of playoffs in 2024 against Taiwan with a score of 2-3, a round of 2,000 game experience. Kreukle has been played many more games, as you can see, 28,500, but many of them aren't Carcassonne. Is currently in the mid 400s, but they had even reached up to 600 at some point, so also a strong player, maybe not quite experienced as hydrobaby in competitive play. I know that they have played expansions, but they also participated in the World Team Carcassonne Online Championship for Team Lithuania a couple of times, and certainly will be giving a fight to their opponents. Overall, a 60% chance favorites is what I would objectively assign to the Taiwanese player. But as I say before each match now, we've seen more miraculous upsets. The Taiwanese player with black meeples and the starting player advantage takes 4 points. Kreukle with a Dorito tile. It's not obvious exactly where to start the city, so he goes for the bottom. I've recently switched to the top placement of the city for a couple of reasons. But regardless of where you place this tile, there are going to be some downsides. So the downside of this is that it is attackable over here. Well, actually, like regardless of how you're going to place it, it's going to be attackable. So you just have to place a meeple on the one pointer and hope that your opponent does not get an attacking tile, and hydrobaby doesn't. Well, of course, in theory, they could go over here and they could meeple this Dorito tile and connect to the city, but this would be bad because they have a shielded tile, which is more valuable than Kreukle's unshielded tile. So the best that they can do is, I guess, go at the top and start a new city, but well, so the Taiwanese player with a mistake on their second move, isn't that lovely? There is no reason to make a move like this. Shielded tiles are extremely valuable, and you really want to use them for your own completable unshared cities. Yeah, look at this. If only Hydro here started the city like this, they would have already now a 8-point city potential. They would have half of a 16-point city with 2 more shielded tiles. And you see, like, moves like these, they don't look like a big mistake. But the ambitious move like these can really move you the game. Also, another mistake from Hydro. Really, I'm so surprised about the opening play, starting a city that, first of all, gives back a loop road for his opponent, and second, just makes it so easy to break. And the Lithuanian knows his stuff, so now really breaking hydrobaby's city, leaving only 2 tiles available to fit into the square, and then plenty of opportunity to break this city completely. I'm so surprised. Now Hydro is sort of forced to take that loop road, which he himself created, instead of using a city cap as a city cap. So lots of inefficiencies in the first 3 moves, and overall now the Lithuanian has a bit of a better position. Probably wants to finish a city at the bottom, even though ideally you want to have multiple cities open. There's just no good squares to create new cities. So let's see if the Lithuanian finds anything creative, and no, he doesn't, but that's good. Also, what's good is that he drew one of the 2 tiles that fit into this square. Hydro with some more 4 points as a result of the starting tile. And the curve for kreukle. Not a lot of scoring potential, could probably go over here, try to break Black City a little bit. Maybe going over here, putting pressure on this road. I do like the city breaking move a little bit better. Because let's say if we get another straight line, then suddenly we can make our opponent's city quite weak even as a ruin. Because at the moment, like, having 1 blocked meeple on a city ain't such a big deal. Black can still get something like a quadruple city tile perhaps, then maybe even a triple city tile over here, start eating up this big ruin at the bottom. So still, like, quite a lot of options. But if kreukle finds another straight line to go over here, then suddenly this city could be restricted at 3 points. Kreukle with a scoring tile of his own. Several ways of taking advantage of it. Probably looking to face the city cap into his own city, but it's actually not a bad idea to face the city cap downwards as well. You know, using the good old Pindutron maneuver. High Glavier. Oh, no. Oh, no. Yeah, so sadly we do see our first big strategic mistake from the Lithuanian player. His idea, of course, is to start a big city fight and overrun the city. The problem is that it works so rarely, and that it sacrifices these 3 points immediately. So, like, when you block your opponent's meeple, you really want to play against that opponent's meeples if you can. So imagine if, yeah, well, look at this. So he does indeed bail out, which is a good decision, but then he could have just simply scored 3 extra points with the same sequence. So a 3 points mistake from the Lithuanian, and if he loses this game by 3 points, then we know where those 3 points came from. Still a decent position. Hydro now tries to finish a city. Surely he will be invaded by the Lithuanian. It sounds like some sort of alternative history novel. Taiwanese city being invaded by Lithuania. Though, fortunately, those 2 countries are too far apart for something like this to happen. So only on the Carcassonne board. Hydro, in the meantime, starts a 6-point farmer, exacerbating his meeple disadvantage. So it's also something that I will be looking forward to exploit if I'm the Lithuanian. He simply starts by setting up another splitter, potentially, by finishing himself a bigger city than his opponents. But the last splitter is drawn by Black, which could be used in a variety of ways. Option 1, we just separate from our opponent's invasion, and we get ourselves the 8 points, and then we hope that kreukle doesn't get a city cap soon enough, and then we can play against this city. The downside about this move is that kreukle could get a city cap, which he absolutely does, So then it ends up not accomplishing much, and then it creates a bigger field at the bottom for 9 points. And now it's the chance for Lithuanian to drop something like a farmer over here for 9 points. But before doing that, Red would need to take care of this critical square. There's still both road monasteries available, and then if Hydro manages to get it, he can get 7 points for the monastery and then expand his 6-point farmer to 15 points and a boatload of farmers. So I wonder if, as Hydro, you want to actually preserve that opportunity and protect that square and go over here and maybe even drop another farmer, and this is exactly what he does. I would have preferred a bit of a different orientation. And so now this really, really opens up this position. And as kreukle, they're not easy ways to invade the field. So he settles for quick points while he can. But overall, as menacing as these farmers look, I would be happy with this board shape if I were the Lithuanian. Because Hydro has already one meeple trapped over here for 3 points, which gives us the long-term meeple majority. And so if we use our meeples right, and this is exactly what the Lithuanian is trying to do, so he drops a 9-point farmer, looking forward to connect more farmers into the field. If we use our farmers right, then we can win the field outright, or at the very least equalize it. So probably a move that I expect from Lithuania is going over here, but with a farmer. I like this move, but a farmer is really, really good there. We should be quite proactive with field scoring options. So a road monastery is drawn by kreukle, which probably goes into that square. It is a lot of points, and keeping the field small is not in his interest at all. Yeah, I really wonder why he wouldn't drop a farmer here. I think this is one of those instances where you place a move with one purpose, which is the restriction of this square, but then you sort of forget that this move could have another purpose. And Hydro now protects his city, which actually makes sense, but then there's only a 50-50 chance of him completing the city anyway, of him completing this square. So I wonder if, as the Taiwanese player, I wouldn't even bother. Just concede this meeple and then try to win the field with the meeple minority, but just by being proactive with board shaping. So maybe you go over here. You could still do this now, actually, and drop a third farmer, claim the majority on the field, and even though kreukle will have more meeples in the long run, Black could just take advantage of all those invasion spots soon enough. Actually, after this move, Red's position is looking pretty grim, because Red simply does not have a lot of field invasion platforms available to him. He simply scores a little bit. He will now get blocked in both spots. But there's still plenty of opportunities to come back, and one of these opportunities would be taking a Dorito tile, going over here, invading this square for a lot of points, and then finishing like a 20-point city. I wonder if that's his plan. Like, is it crazy to just go over here, then hope for the 50-50 chance of drawing the last dagger and the 88% chance of getting yourself a triple city? I wouldn't do that, but it's an option. I think what kreukle is going to end up doing instead is just finishing his monastery and possibly meepling this city cap, threatening the completion of the city and dropping a farmer. But this is one of those cases where I actually prefer keeping the city cap empty, and he starts a new city. That's interesting. I wonder if he maybe is overvaluing scoring here a little bit, because that field geometry is not going to last forever. This is a very nice invasion platform, or was a very nice invasion platform, and Hydro could take it out at some point by just placing a tile over here. He could even do so right now, and this would also put pressure on both of these squares, on this one and on this one. Instead, he simply chooses to start a new city by himself. Kreukle continues his city at the top, which could cost him a monastery meeple, because Hydro could just go here and then limit this square to a 50-50, given the fact that there's only one vanilla city cap remaining. But I have a feeling that a different move is going to be played. Hydro is probably going to go over here, breaking Kreukle's city, which would be a bit of a misprioritization. Told ya, told ya, told ya. It feels very nice when my fortune telling is successful, especially like when I manage to predict suboptimal moves. It's always quite pleasant, actually. But yeah, of course, this was just much stronger. Well, I mean, this also is a bit unpleasant to deal with because there are actually not many tiles that fit into this square. There is the one vanilla city cap, and what else is there? Well, there are a couple of Doritos, and by a couple I mean literally 2. But then also I wonder if kreukle should have instead dropped their meeple over here and try to go for the city. So you see, like, if you go for this idea with the city cap and try to overrun the city, then it's not very high prob because this square is super restricted. But if you do this with the Dorito, you have multiple tiles that fit into this square and multiple tiles that fit into this square. Instead, he simply chooses to play small ball and block the square entirely. So that way he has himself a winning mini battle of how many? 6 versus 2 points, so +4. Hydro, in the meantime, blocks Red's monastery. But then I wonder if this is such a bad thing. So imagine this. Eventually, we're going to assume that kreukle is going to finish the city over here. Then Red might block this square. And then this 3-point farmer will be stranded and outscored by this red monastery. And then Red could tie the field from a different spot. So this could be a possible plan. What we're going to see from Red now is probably a move over here, further restricting Hydro's city. And at some point, and soon enough... No. Please don't go. Please don't farm. Please don't farm. I know he's thinking about it. I know he's thinking about it. Please don't do that. Don't do that. Well, we dodged one. I think some intrusive thoughts may have been in the Lithuanian's mind, but he remembered what his Carcassonne therapist told him. Just breathe. Don't spend your last meeple. I wonder what the purpose of this was. So it looks like he's restricting his own city. I assume that he does not like the fact that this square is already restricted toward the city plus field tile, and so that he needs to make sure that there's a city plus road tile usable for him. That is misguided because he already needs a city plus road tile over here in any case. So this move was a bit stronger. And kreukle now with the monastery needs to think hard about this one. It's a strategic decision. Do we just go over here, get a monastery meeple back, and then maybe even concede the field, and then try to outscore our opponent, or do we use the monastery tile elsewhere? And given the fact that Hydro's ahead on the scoreboard, I very much prefer the latter approach. Maybe scoring 3 points is possible, or even going a bit gambly and going for the 7-point monastery spot himself. The reason I really don't like letting this farmer into the field is because we're so down on the scoreboard. So then we probably will need to equalize that field eventually. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There are only 2 curves that go into this square. Oh no, we have ourselves a hallucination. So this move makes sense, right? It's defending the square towards the 50-50, and then it's planning to invade through this square, this field over here, right? Except that the Lithuanian has forgot that this field is not tied to the main field. There's an unfillable hole over here. So the only way this meeple ever makes it over here is if Red himself places a dagger in this square, which is not something that he wants to be doing. Moreover, red now already needs a dagger in another space over here. So sadly, the intrusive thoughts of the Lithuanian experts have won. And he did drop his last meeple, which of course is not something that you want to be doing pretty much ever. And not especially in his situation where he just needs to score so much. Yeah, he does eventually connect to this little field. The dagger is drawn by Hydro, and Hydro correctly interprets the position. They do not continue their city on the right, so this meeple is now blocked. They simply make sure that this red meeple does not have access to the main field. So now the position is incredibly difficult for the Lithuanian. I mean, finally he does get a meeple back from this guy. And then he, at the very least, can hope for the equalization of the main farm. Maybe like over here, through a curve or a straight line or something. Probably a couple of curves is what you want to do. But an equalization is not going to be enough. So that's why it was so important to preserve the meeple. So that he can later fight for the complete takeover on the field in the future. And also, like, many quick points are left on the board. This monastery could have scored more. And this city cap could have scored 3 points over here for the road. So finally, another scoring tile for kreukle. He's trying to set up it actually rather smartly because he's setting up a curve. His plan is to draw one or both curves because Hydro needs the curves anyway. And so if kreukle thinks that he's going to need to draw the curves, he might as well have to have a good use for them himself. He's now blocking the access of the black meeple into the main field. I'm not sure, like, because of this hallucination, I'm going to go ahead and assume that red might even think that this farmer is in the main field somehow. Like, I've done these field hallucinations myself as well. There is a particular memorable Blitz game from the Summer Blitz tournament last year. By last, I mean 2023 against Licio Campo. And, yep, he simply does not see the field. He, of course, is planning to make a big invasion and overrun it. But, like, I think when the scoring starts, then he'll realize that this farmer is separate from everybody else. Oh, this is so interesting. And look at this. Hydro now helps him. Like, after this move, kreukle must be thinking, like, why is my opponent helping me? Wait, that is not helping. They just took away 3 points from me and pre-built a road for themselves. So at this point, the realization must have come to the Lithuanian. And like, if you, for example, if you were to fill the square, right? Then suddenly red strategy looks pretty good. I mean, it's a big field of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cities. That's 24 points. Probably very close to being enough to outrun his opponent. Especially if red can score a little bit. But yeah, that's... board vision is going to cost the Lithuanian big time, but that's okay. There's still 2 more games to be played in this match. He's also fighting until the end, so trying to net his best ends game. So this move was intended to block this 6-point field from his opponent, but it does not matter that Hydro gets a 6-point road nevertheless. So it's going to be quite the score difference here of at least 30 points, if not more. Now kreukle might have noticed for sure that, wait, why is my farmer scoring only 9 points? Oh, that's why. 40-point difference is what we have. So yeah, so even if there somehow were one more road monastery in the deck and red were successful in his invasion, it still would have not been enough. So this also shows you that it's important to score as well, in addition to invading farms. Let's see if the Lithuanian can learn from it in game 2. A 200 rating point difference between these players at the moment. And now Red has the starting player advantage and the quadruple crossroads. Meeple's a 2-point road. Hydro with the first city cap and the first 4 points of the game. Ahead on the scoreboard again. Kreukle with a road monastery, and now we're going to see what they're made of. They instead make a normal looking move, finishing their road and starting a new monastery for 3 points, which is of course a move that makes sense. I would have preferred maybe like 1 square up, trying to benefit from that road a little bit longer, but this is a perfectly fine move. There are now 2 juicy monastery spots next to it. We probably want to go over here and start a new city. Hydro cannot invade or obstruct. They can just start a new city of their own, which could backfire a little bit. But let's see if this happens. Kreukle with a scoring tile. Probably looking to take 2 points here or here. And he does choose the best orientation. So first of all, it doesn't give anything back. And second, it disrupts the idea of going for a 6-point loop. But Hydro still with a fantastic tile. The other road monastery in the deck can go over here. That's the strongest equity move for 5 points, pre-finishing his road. But I have a feeling that he might choose to go here instead, which is the second best move. Again, it makes some sense. It's just trying to simply take out this monastery spot from Kreukle, but it's no reason to sacrifice points really, because this monastery is just so great positionally. So first of all, pre-finishing the road, getting yourself 2 extra road points for free, controlling a road end for the future, setting up another monastery spot for stacking. All of these things are lacking in this placement. So this is something that I should be quite happy about this if I'm playing red. This is also a great tile to having. Wait, what's happening? This is also a great tile to have drawn. I think this is how this works grammatically. So what could we do? Well, there is no need to disrupt your own city. So the logical move is simply to go over here. But it's actually a good move to make. It puts some pressure on these squares. It makes the city harder to complete. There are some cases how with an umbrella tile, a straight line, another straight line, we could actually get 2 of our meeples out and start obstructing this guy. So plenty of options. Hydro now with a nasty block of his own. Only 2 tiles that fit into this square. So we really shouldn't be planning to complete the city anytime soon. Not that we shouldn't try. I actually still like going here with a city cap. Just on the off chance that we get this dagger tile. Still 2 of those remaining. If our opponent doesn't do anything, there's of course a 75% chance of us eventually drawing it. The problem is that our opponent is going to do something. They are going to go here with a Dorito or a cow tile and set up a blocking opportunity for themselves with tempo, whilst also building up their bottom city. And even though that bottom city looks a bit broken, it's actually not fully broken. Just 1 Dorito tile can help it consolidate quite nicely. Yeah, also the reason I actually quite like this move here on the left. Okay, ooh. Yeah, a bit misguided here. So Kreukle goes for a farmer in a place where he should really be avoiding field fights, because he is going to be at a meeple minority in all likelihood. And when that happens, you got to do 2 things. First of all, you got to keep the position as closed as possible. So dropping farmers is not a way to do that. And the second, you should score as much as possible and leave your opponent as little stuff to work with as they possibly can, and leaving this city cap open certainly must not have helped, but the saving grace, the defense tile, they get to go over here, they get to preserve the chances of completing their city, and they get to exert some pressure on this monastery as well, so certainly something that's worth doing on the part of a Lithuanian, but they don't, and this is completely beyond me. This does not look like a good position to be sacrificing a meeple. It does not look like a good decision at all. I'm really struggling to see what might be going through their minds. Maybe they just don't like the idea of adding an extra monastery point to his opponent. Maybe they don't want to restrict their field by too much. They now get themselves a road meeple back and trying to score a little bit. Hydro, in the meantime, building up their city at the bottom and turning it into a real threat. Of course, this square will now be fully blocked. Something that could have been avoided. Kreukle with a splitter tile. Still ahead on the scoreboard, by the way. Like, it's still not such a bad position because this farmer, with difficulties, but it could grow. This city could also grow because it has 2 open platforms. The advantage, of course, belongs to hydrobaby overall, but for example, if the Lithuanian goes here, and then Hydro does not draw an invasion tile, which he doesn't, then Kreukle could invade. Oh, he could invade so hard, but not with this tile, of course. I guess the best he can do is simply go over here, just continue his city, or maybe even over here, although this move would restrict his options a little bit, but instead he plays the chickeny move of trying to prevent his opponent from invading the city, but it's not something I would do. In the position where my opponent is ahead on meeples and on monasteries and stuff, I actually want to keep that option open. I want to make sure that I can draw something like a starting tile and invade over here. And we also see that Hydro is not afraid of his opportunity himself, just because he needs to continue his monastery at some point. And I wonder if Kreukle is going to shift gears and go into blocking mode. Yeah, this actually is something that makes a lot of sense. So this idea of overtaking this city has almost been gone. But now the plan of the Lithuanian is to simply try and block this square, which is not easy, but still technically possible. And then if that were to happen, his meeple situation would be very favorable. Hydro, in the meantime, plays a strong move, restricting Red's field, restricting Red's city ruin. Kreukle does not use a monastery for blocking, so he does not go over here. Instead, he simply uses it to set up another blocking platform against his opponent. But this gives time for the Taiwanese player to maybe just go over here and try to get a curve and 2 meeples back as a result. Instead, he chooses to save the city at the bottom at first, with the idea that there's still plenty of tile that fit into this square. Now Kreukle gets himself a monastery point and also some new green squares on the field potentially. Also exerting a little bit pressure against the city over here. Hydro completely protects his city, but now with the splitter tile, a big chance for the Lithuanian, and he goes for it. He's now trying to go with back-to-back tiles and invade this city. Hydro does not get a good defense. I guess he can go over here, but still with back-to-back Doritos or a Dorito plus a course combo, Red could overtake this city for upwards of 30 points. Kreukle with a blocking tile, looking to place it either here or here. Both moves seem powerful enough. Could also develop his ruin, but doesn't appear to be the priority right now. He does go for the scoring move nevertheless. Hydro is going to get his meeple back in all likelihood, or maybe just cover up his bottom city. It might even be a bit stronger, delaying the gratification, but scoring potentially more. And first taking care of his most vulnerable meeple. Kreukle with a starting tile. probably looking to either continue his road, or maybe just going over here and starting to put pressure on this square over here. Still needs to resolve his field problems. For example, one possible move, which I also really like, is going over here, facing the city cap down, creating a 7-point opportunity by scoring with the city cap with one of the 3 remaining vanilla tiles, also pre-building a 5-point road, which only he can benefit from, because whoever takes this road will be exposing this square for a potential block, not in his interest. And I'm impressed that the Lithuanian actually finds this really, really strong move. Kreukle continues his road. Hydro with a Dorito tile. Trying to make a decision. Does he just go and develop his monastery here, or his city here rather, or does he start and build up some threats against this square? There is no need to panic just yet, and the Taiwanese player concurs. And now we see the problems with Red's field, right? So it's so closed that there's no way to drop a splitter tile. And Red is forced to just drop the city tile elsewhere. Or maybe just over here adding a city point. What Red should never do is going over here and invade Black City, because it is just not worth enough points, and he really needs meeples for scoring, like he needs to meeple this road, and that's why he decides to simply leave the city cap empty and add himself a point. It's a good disciplined decision here. Hydro still tries to break Kreukle's road, who can now easily prolong it. Or maybe instead he can prolong his field. Yeah, that's also something that makes a lot of sense. Hydro gets a meeple back. And 13 extra points on the scoreboard. Kreukle with a scoring tile finally gets to develop his field. Surely this has to be the easy scoring move, but it also opens up a platform for a potential invasion from the Taiwanese player, which I'm sure he's going to use in due course, right after scoring 5 points for the leftmost road. Or instead he decides to finish his monastery, which also makes a lot of sense. He's now going to meeple this road, finish this road over here, and this was also one of the reasons why he didn't panic, just because there were still several tiles available for him to neutralize the threat of Red. But this does not mean that there was anything wrong with Red's attempt by any means. Red is trailing a lot by scoreboard, on the scoreboard, but still plenty of chances. He just needs to draw a lot of quick point tiles, and then he needs to keep the majority on the field. But he does not need to drop a second farmer before Hydro does. So the plan is from Red, so that we're as efficient as we possibly can. And now we also get a fantastic tile, which can either give us points, or maybe can give us points that way. He chooses the more greedy approach, getting 5 immediate points. Hydro probably looking to score as well, take out those empty city caps, and then the plan is, as soon as Black invades, we re-invade, and we keep ourselves a 1 meeple majority on the field at all times. Kreukle drops a city cap in his field, sets up a 7-point move. Hydro, with a bit of a mistake, he should be scoring, he should be always scoring here, instead of going for the field. So he's giving some chances back to Kreukle, who's now quite interestingly trying to block the field invasion. And it could be a productive block because there's only one tile that fits into this square. Although I think it's a bit impatient from Kreukle. A move that I would have preferred is maybe just scoring the quick points here and then later re-invading ourselves. The issue, of course, with my suggestion is that this is kind of a clunky tile. Because my plan, if I am the Lithuanian, is just simply get a road tile, drop a farmer here, connect to the field and get the 2 versus 1 majority as opposed to 1 versus 0 majority. Hydro is now fighting for the ruin, which is interesting. Let's leave it at that. Kreukle with a very interesting farmer here. And it could work out really well. It's already worth 6 points. It could be worth 9 if he gets the dagger for here. Hydro successfully completes the field invasion. But I'm sure that Kreukle will be trying to reinvade at some point. But I wonder if Hydro is now going to forego his city point and instead go for the field fight on the left. And this is exactly what he does. Kreukle, with the dagger, prolongs his bottommost field. He'll be looking forward to either blocking Hydro's meeples here and /or invading himself at the bottom. Moreover, there's some really interesting sequences here. Well, okay, Hydro is going really, really crazy on that field. Kreukle with a fantastic move here chooses to invade with a farmer. And he can also get a curve, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 curves remaining to score a ginormous road for 8 points and get himself the city invasion, the field invasion. If only he can make sure that this farmer does not invade. He cannot. Hydro does get himself the invasion. Kreukle gets the road, and maybe he can still have a chance to equalize the field. Hydro continues his city. Yeah, so this tile was a bit of a waste, sadly. Instead, Kreukle should have gone over here and blocked Hydro's city. And this would have made sure that he can't score. But he doesn't even bother, interestingly. Instead, he chooses to take out what he perceives to be as a field invasion platform. And it could work, but it's not the only field invasion platform. Kreukle, of course, is in a difficult position, and he even chooses to give Hydro a meeple back just to open some more space on the board. This will not work, as the Taiwanese player no doubt will go over here, not allowing Kreukle to get himself an easy farmer. But is it still possible? There are no dagger tiles remaining. Yeah, there is simply not a single city cap that fits into this square. So Kreukle. Actually, you know what he could have done on the previous move? He could have gone over here, farmed, and then used this tile to connect to the field, something like this. But even that would have not been enough. So what does the Lithuanian do here? Still trailing on the scoreboard and the field. Really not many options. Probably looking to set up some sort of field invasion. And maybe hope that his opponent drops a 0-point farmer and makes a mistake. There are no curves remaining, which certainly does not help. He sets up a bit of a platform. Maybe his idea is to... I'm not even sure what his idea is. Maybe his idea is to get something like a crossroad tile and connect over here, but it just doesn't work. Simply the remaining tiles do not work that way. And he will be losing a pretty sizable farm, which is somewhat sad. He'll score for a monastery, of course. Some 4 points, or 5 at the top. but a big point difference in a game which actually was closer than it might have seemed. So Hydro with some really risky farming invasions, maybe not necessarily realizing that they could have won without the field. And the Lithuanian just cannot manage to both block Hydro's meeples and get his own farmers in time. Ended up losing the field that he himself so hard creates it, and with that a fourth loss in a row for the Lithuanian, a fourth win in a row for the Taiwanese player, and guaranteed first and last place in the group respectively. Yeah, so 20 points is the difference, which means that equalizing the 18-point field would not have been enough. So that's why also I didn't really like Black's strategy, even though it worked. It sort of sacrificed some win percentage points. There was just an easy way to make this work without having to invade no farms, without even dropping this first farmer in the first place. Just keep scoring and cruise to the win, but the Taiwanese player chose differently. Decided to take a riskier but more decisive approach, and it worked for a 2-0 win in the match. So we're going to first update the scoreboard and then look at the tournament situation, which in Group A looks actually pretty straightforward. So Hydro now on 4 matches in 4 games. No, 4 wins in 4 matches. 8 games won, 2 games lost. Someone you know on 3 matches won in 2nd place. His true tiebreaker, which will be updated later, is 7-4. So the only chance how someone you know could outrun hydrobaby is that if Hydro loses his last match 2-0, which is not all that likely, so he's going to be at 4-1, and his tiebreaker is going to be 8-4. If Vladimir wins his match 2-0, then he's going to be at 4-1, and his tiebreaker is going to be 9-4. Anything short of that... Well, actually, no, you know what? Vladimir can also win 2-1, because 9-5 is a good enough tiebreaker as well. Even though the difference between games won and games lost is 4 in both cases, the next tiebreaker is the absolute number of won games, in which case Vladimir would be favored. But then if hydrobaby loses 2-1 instead of 2-0, then he's going to guarantee himself a 9-4 tiebreaker. And in case both of these players have a 9-4 tiebreaker, then hydrobaby will be favored because in their mutual encounter they prevailed over someone you know. So this means that in order to guarantee himself the first spot in the group, all that the Taiwanese master has to do in the next match is just win 1 game, not even win the match. And for Vladimir to try and take over the first spot in the group and go straight to the quarterfinals, skipping the round of 16. So that's the difference between the first and the second and third place in the group, is that they all 3 qualify, but the first place get to go straight to the quarterfinals. So it is something worth fighting for. And also typically you get yourself an easier opponent in the quarterfinals as well. So everything is dependent on the Taiwanese player here. Kreukle now with 0 wins in 4 matches can still hope for maybe a 4th place if they manage to win their last match, and if Glovier and Singh lose theirs. As for the 3rd place in the group, it's pretty much up for grabs. So Gatluk's currently in the 3rd place but Glovier and Singh could certainly overtake him. So then that's going to be it. There's a lot of matches coming up today. In just over 3 hours, we're going to watch these two matches, MTU versus leodavinci in Group E and Portgard versus Warta in Group G. Both matches with significant implications for the tournament standings, but we're going to talk about this in 3 hours. Make sure to meeple the like button if you liked anything about this stream. It is helpful for the algorithm more than you might think. And in case you're here for the first time, make sure to subscribe for more competitive Carcassonne content like this. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'm gonna see you soon.